Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow, and in today's episode, I'm going to make this episode about a definition and basically, taking a word that's been created out of anime, and basically go and explain a little bit of the history and how basically we got to the word as we know it. And today's word is the word waifu or Mai Waifu. Okay. So this word is relatively a more recent word, a new sort of a new word given to a phenomenon. But the phenomenon itself has been around for a while. It's just had a few extra features sort of added into it and basically implemented. And what does it mean? Well, basically, it's the Japanese inflected version of the word "my wife." Okay, and again, because the the Japanese phonetic. The way that they can transpose the English word wife, has to be fa fi fu fa fo. So obviously, waifu ends up being the phonetic that they use for it. Okay, so basically, my wife, basically, and the first actual reference of the word was used in something like Azumanga Daioh, where the teacher had a picture on his table, and when he was asked about it, he referred to it as my wife, my waifu. Okay,
My wife.
so but of course this isn't the first actual situation where we've used something like this sort of idol worship, basically being able to take a character or something that's from an anime or a cartoon and basically adapt it as your girlfriend or your wife in this case. Okay, but again, this sort of phenomenon has happened for a while. I mean, even in before the era of from the invasion from anime. We've always had these questions, especially if you've ever played the game FMK. We've always had these discussions of different characters and that kind of stuff in this. Okay, the whole question, is it going to be Wilma Flintstone or Betty Rubble? Okay, that sort of situation has occurred, or is it going to be Betty or Veronica? Which one does Archie choose? Okay, or heck, if you want to do like say something like or another example would be from Scooby-Doo. Is it going to be Daphne or is it going to be Velma, right? I mean, this sort of idea has always sort of been around, but we now have never really labeled it as something. So when the advent of anime came, this sort of thing still came out. For example, animes like, Ah My Goddess and Mamote Shugoten. The character in the anime, basically a big loser, basically gets granted a wish. He decides, well, I wish I had a girlfriend like you, referring to the goddess. And then instead of giving him a girlfriend like the goddess, well, why not just give him the goddess? Sure, why not, right? So, this sort of this basically worship of a particular anime character is nothing new. Okay, now. Usually if you look on the internet, the definition sort of ends there. But I mean, because the early parts of the anime and that kind of stuff, a lot of people sort of worshipped a particular character. My favorite character is Madoka, but I don't refer to it as the waifu because there's another element that sort of is missing. That a lot of definitions don't add on, and that is the fact that although you can pick your favorite character from an anime or that kind of stuff, without actually having any sort of influence or your sort of interaction with your the particular character, to be reciprocated in a sort of way, then you can't really call it a waifu. Just because just as much as you could say, well, you can pick a person like say Kim Kardashian. Would you FMK her? Well, nothing that you really do or can say really has any influence of whether or not she can pick any of those for you, right? So that's why the extra component is the extra interaction. Now, in the days of things like Oh My Goddess and Mamote Shogaten, their games weren't made that were for them. Should I say dating sims or interaction type of games. The best example of those things, of course, transpired with animes like Tokimeki Memorial, and of course one that I've also did earlier in the episode is graduation. Now that's probably one of the closest examples of, for example, as a manga daigo you're going to get. Basically, you are the teacher in the game. You got 5 students in front of you, and then you basically, can do things like give them presents, cheer them on, help them with their homework, discipline them, all this other stuff. And you can basically get to a point where you get the student to like you so much that maybe they will marry you at the end when the graduation actually happens. And again, that would be sort of the extreme example, but that would be sort of the extra example that you'd get for a waifu, right? Because you basically, with your interaction, made her your wife. Okay. The other examples that again, how I can bring this around in full circle. I'm currently playing this game called Langrisa Mobile, and strategically speaking, as if you play it like a war song, or as the Langrisa from the PC Engine, as you played it, it's a strategy type game, okay. But the mobile version, they basically changed it into a captcha, or a lot of people like to say a waifu game, where you basically sit there and collect characters. Well, truthfully speaking, until recently, when they've introduced the new upgrade on the thing here, they've got the June Bride promotion where they've actually got, for example, Sherry in a bridal uniform, a bridal gown. Okay, so you can now do things in the game like for example, do heart points and change her intimacy level. So that she can then write a confession for you, and then therefore all this other stuff. So this is where this feedback system to make her your wife, or make her your bride. That is sort of the extra thing that now has been implemented into a lot of these animes and in a lot of these games. Okay, so that's another sort of element in this sort of thing. So. Is it a little bit weird? Yeah, probably is. Like anything else, if you're thinking of, for example, Wilma or Betty, well, you're probably pretty strange anyway. But okay, as long as it's all pure in your thought and brain, that's okay. When you start actually practicing it, well, what can you say? I guess that's a new version of shall we say, fan interaction. How scary is that? Okay, so. I'll do some more different types of definitions of some words and things that we have now adapted into our fan culture through anime. What you want to do right now is you want to go down below and you want to click like and subscribe, and we'll get into more of those in a future episode. Okay, so until next time, see you again.